Alright guys, just wanted to make a video for you guys on Heroic Imperator, Normal Imperator, how we do it in Guild Valiant, what we found a success with. Unfortunately, I did not have a kill video. I might have one of those coming up on this Saturday when we go do our standard normal heroic run this Saturday night. But I did find this picture which depicts the vast majority of the fight that we do in a way that you can kind of hopefully understand. I won't go over the base mechanics of the fight, but I assume that you know that basically there are 5 mechanics that are done the entire fight that change basically based on which runestone he has in the phases, and then that way, if you happen to need me to tell you about these, just let me know when I post this video on the Omerta page, and I will definitely go over how those change for people that may not have seen it. Pretty much the way we do is we actually, where this line is right here, this area right here, this is where our ranged start the fight, and our ranged and healers all stack on top of one another. We start here because this allows for, since imp starts here, this allows for us to start casting from here to here. Let's start our macros. Plus, it also puts us in a good position for the phase 1 rune for Imperator, which is actually, he comes here. So once he comes here to channel, we're about right here usually for our DPS. If your DPS is a little low, you might be around here, you might be around here. But what you want to do is you just want to make sure that you end up around this side of the room so you don't you lose DPS time on Imperator. Okay, so what's the strat? The strat is that the boss is tanked in the middle, as you see here, and the tank always basically faces him away from the raid, where the back of the raid is not, or where the melee at the back of the boss are not facing the ranged, to where they're kind of at a 90-degree angle. And what this allows this to happen is this saves you for phase 2, whenever he actually does the knockback for the destructive resonance. What happens is pretty much the range stack here, and the range will, as soon as the destructive resonance move, we move to the next spot. We sit there and wait there, destructive resonance falls, we move to the next spot. What this does is this allows melee to never have to move, and what they will do is pretty much this also allows, pretty much when the ad will probably spawn around here, it can spawn around here, and that will come right back into melee. The range can hit it, and everything is taken care of there. But that's pretty much what we do. As we wait till destructive resonance goes, we move to the left, and we just continue DPSing the boss, doing that one thing to the left. We try to stay closer to the outside of the ring, so that we are not placing destructive resonance too close, just in case the melee tends to screw up and gets knocked back into it during phase 2. But we tend to try to stay around the outside of the ring. It just seems to be easier that way, and allows you to get a little bit more distance between yourself and the boss, if for some reason during the Mark of Chaos where he's rooted, if the tank messes up and is stuck in the middle. So what we'll do is we will actually just follow around this ring, and we will continue this way. When we get to this area, this little gap area, which I'll go over why this is important later, when we get to this gap area, we will actually kind of try to skip this gap area, because we don't want to try to leave a destructive resonance there. It's one of those things to where during our phase transitions, we're more working in this area, and so we try to leave that clear. So we'll come to about right here, and we'll have the person that's marked, we'll put a range marker here. Sometimes it's me, sometimes it's our other warlock Sushin, and we will basically, once we get to this point, we will try to skip over to this point. Doesn't always work. Sometimes somebody screws up and doesn't go all the way with us, but you want to try to have that transition going from here over to here, and just basically keep going around the circle, and just keep making transitions. We very rarely do we get to the point to where we are more than making the entire circle during a fight. You want to, the way the transitions kind of work, we usually get to about right here-ish area, sometimes right here, and then we'll transition into phase one, and or excuse me, the first intermission. So you're not making a complete circuit, but you are pretty much just following the circle. In the tank just continuously kind of just moves the boss ahead of. What this also allows is that the boss with Mark of Chaos can then run out, as you see here, can run out and explode, and he can be 35 yards away from the melee. He's definitely 35 yards away from the range. You don't have to worry about that at all as long as the tank is responsible. This also works for the rooted phase, which I'm going to go over, and I hope you're doing as well for that. So this is pretty much what we do. It's just, and because the fight does not change mechanically as far as positioning, it's the same thing that happens over and over again. So pretty much we go through phase one, we get him down to about his 85% mark, and he moves from here to here. Once he's here, the DP, we're about right in this area. This, like I said, is about 85%. We pew, and once he drops back down, an ad usually spawns. We move both the boss and the ad back to the middle, and there we kill the ad first. Always killing the ad first, of course, and killing, and then going back to the boss. Leaving destructive resonances in our wake. And the one where you get knocked back when the ad dies and the destructive resonance grows, we usually leave a little bit more room. So like in phase one, we would move from like right here where the resonance is to right here. But in phase two, we would actually move a little bit further to basically make up for the fact that that thing's going to grow just a little bit. And because he does prioritize certain abilities above destructive resonance, you're not always guaranteed to have that thing like clockwork. So you just kind of want to make sure that on that one phase you're moving over just a little bit more. So we're in destructive resonance phase, we're in his displacement phase. Just do the same thing over and over again until you get to your first intermission. During first intermission, of course, he will run over here. You will have your tanks. During this first intermission, your tanks will stationary in the middle. They will intercept the ads that are coming here. Sometimes we have healers stand right here with them. Sometimes we have them standing on the group. But the tanks will be staying in the middle to intercept the ads. The reason why I said you want to leave this gap here is because, as you know, the mages will spawn here and here. Melee, our guys, all range will stand here. Usually we also have the healers on top of us. So what happens is if you get focused, you just go from here and you move out to here. Or you can move out to the wall, which is a little bit further than right here. But you want to move either one of those two places, and we have just basically the guys that are focused move out to there. While we're doing that, your melee, I don't know if y'all knew this, but your melee can interrupt the cast of the arcane bolts. That'll help keep down raid damage. While you're doing this, we usually focus this guy on the left right here is number 1. This guy on the right here is number 2 for us. We just kill it, turn over here and kill it. And during this entire time, we have the tanks, and the tanks only, controlling and killing the ads here in the middle. The reason why we have this is simply because during this phase you're going to have a lot of healing issues right before right before the next phase, from this intermission to the next phase, because if your range turn and just start burning the ads, they're going to explode. You're going to take a lot of damage. It's a lot of healer mana, and this fight is very long and very healer mana intensive anyway, so you want to do everything you can to stop that. So we have the tanks try to take care of that as much as possible. Now once we usually do finish the second one before the intermission is over with, and so we will have a couple of guys control single target down the ads, but usually during this time, since we're stacked up, we have a healer DPS cooldown, a tranquility, I don't know, I forget what you're using for healers, but a tranquility. If you have shamans, their soul link totems. If you have holy priest, their what's it called? The thing that's kind of like Tranquility. Pretty much all, and if you have a disc priest, it's amazing because they can lay down the bubble. And pretty much we just wait there until the end of the transition phase, right at that area. Once that happens and the ads are dead, we then move from here, where we're at now, over to this area right here to start our new phase for going around. And just like the other phases, just like the first phase and the second phase, when we start here, we let the destructive resonance fall, we go here, and then of course around the circle as we go along, always killing the ads. Now during this phase, I mentioned Joe talking about boss DPS and staying in the mark of chaos when it explodes. I don't know if you guys are doing this, but this is a suggestion that I definitely suggest you do, because during this phase, the ad that pops up is really deadly. It may not, I don't know if y'all know that, but that ad is definitely number one priority. And what we have found is that the ad usually spawns and has enough health to last through the mark of chaos. So what you'll do is you'll have one tank the ad and keep the ad right here. Then the other tank, say if we're right here and the melee are right here, then the other tank will then move out to here with the boss. The boss follows with him. Once he gets out here and he becomes stationary, the other tank taunts the boss to come back to him, so that during that time we're focusing the ad should be dying around that time by the time the boss comes back to the other tank, and then Mark of Chaos explodes, and then that tank comes back to the group. Pretty simple. You definitely want to have your tanks watching that Mark of Chaos during that time. You do not want them really staying in the middle and everybody moving out, because if you have them staying in the middle and everyone moving, the range even at this point will have to move out some, because this is closer than 35 yards. So you want to have your tanks do that. Whoa, okay, I didn't mean to do that. You want to have your tanks do that and not have your melee and your ranged have to move out away from it, because they're going to be wanting to kill the ad anyway during that phase, since it has a lot of health. It's like 1.4 million health, I believe, something like that. So you want to, that's what you want to do. You want to have your tank with the ad stay here, your other tank move to wherever the range is. So if the range is here, you want to have move here. Sit there, wait until he's marked. You call for the tank to taunt off of him. The tank just moves to about right here, taunts off. We continuously kill the ad, then move back to the middle. That's how that phase is done. We do that until the next transition phase. During the next transition phase, of course, y'all know, mages, big guy. Okay, this is a decision that you have to make. If you are having a tank survival issue, this guy needs to be priority numero uno. Okay? If you're having a raid healer survival issue, this guy needs to be numero uno. What will happen then is you will deal with it in one of two ways. If you deal with it this way, to where you're having heavy tank damage, you're having problems with tanks staying up during this transition, this guy becomes numero uno. He comes and he is moved to right here, and he is tanked in this area right here. That's the Reaver. So the Reaver's tanked right here. You'll have a tank standing in this direction and a tank standing in this direction, so they're not cleaving, and you will kill him ASAP. If this guy gets punted, this guy taunts, and then goes out this way. This entire time, they're trying to keep ads coming to this area. So you'll be tanking ads and this guy right in this area. The little 3 ads that spawn over here, of course. You kill him ASAP. You turn to him. Also, you bloodlust during this phase. Do not use bloodlust at the beginning of the fight. It is not worth it. This fight is not a DPS fight. This is a control fight. So you want to use bloodlust during this phase. Okay? So whatever your priority target dies, it should die pretty quickly. So if it's your Reaver and you're like, man, the Reaver is really busting our tanks and we really need to get it down, kill the Reaver first. On the other hand, if you're standing here and the ranged are just taking ungodly amount of damage because they're just being hammered by these guys. One way that we've done it is we kind of have our tanks are pretty well geared. Our tanks are pretty good at cooldown usage, and I know you guys are good as well, and I know you can do this. What we have is we actually have a different strategy. We have them pull the Reaver to the middle, and just like this, they have the two tanks pretty much right here, and they face them away. And with the two tanks face away, so whenever they get knocked back, they can taunt. Usually, we also have had a third tank in the past that will just do adds. We do that on Heroic because it's just necessary on Heroic, but on normal, it's just two tanks usually. And they will just kind of, this ad tank will usually, this tank that's right over here will be like a paladin or a druid, something that has a lot of AoE damage, has a lot of AoE threat that can just pick up the ads as they come along here, and they will do that. And you want to kind of focus. Pretty much, this guy is taunting this guy simply so this guy can get back and have his. I believe there's a debuff that falls on him so that they can fall off. But this guy's mainly dealing with ads. He's kind of just a taunt bot for our #1 tank. But they will hold them there. Then we will kill this guy first, and we will move immediately to the Reaver, kill the Reaver, and then finish this guy. This guy might be alive whenever the intermission ends. If that's the case, that's fine. Let your tanks handle the ads. If you have problem with the ads stacking up, you need them to die a little bit quicker. You can have one melee who has good DPS, a shaman, a warrior, something that has something he can control, get them down, but not pop them. Then you can have them go and help the tanks with the ads. If the tanks can handle it by themselves, let them handle it. Otherwise, just let them go. And what you'll do is you'll have this guy up. Any other melee should be here interrupting. If you have range that can interrupt, make sure you're interrupting. Trying to keep that damage down as much as possible. Once you get to this phase is the exploding phase. Pretty much what happens then is we have our healers kind of spread out in this area right here. And so if you're doing 12, 15 man, you probably got 2 or 3 healers. So 2 healers here, 1 in the middle. Pretty much this allows them to stay in the middle. Then you have your range DPS spread out across this entire area. I don't know how many you guys run. If you run 3 or 4, that's fine. You can just run them off the sides here. But pretty much we stay in this semicircle around the boss. The boss is then tanked facing this direction. With the melee standing right here, and whenever a tank has exploding chaos or mark of chaos, he of course runs out to an area. Once he does there, he explodes, little balls come out, dodge the balls. That's pretty much mark of chaos, how you deal with that. Destructive resonance is pretty much you just got to move. So if you're standing here, you get destructive resonance on you, move back, move to the left. I mean, you just want to move away from your space, just don't stand in it. Once you get mark, once you get pretty much the Arcane Wrath. Arcane Wrath during this phase is pretty much you just want to stay spread because it's going to jump. And it's going to be 2 of them. There's really not much you can do about it. You just kind of want to keep yourselves alive. It's very healing intensive, and that. Of course, the big ad spawns. The big ad is always still the priority, and whenever the little ads spawn during this phase, because the big ads drops down into the little ads, you just want to keep cleave DPS going and try to kill the little ads before the next big ad spawns. But you should also be dealing damage to the boss because the boss has to die as quick as possible in this phase. Because this phase gets hairy healing wise because you have multiple arcane wraths going out. You always have multiple destructive resonances going out, so the room is going to start filling up. You have the balls spreading out from everywhere from the tank, and if you're not paying attention, you can get hit by the tank. Then you have the AoE damage from the ads. It becomes a cluster. This phase is a cluster, and there's nothing you can really do about it other than spread out, Healers heal your butts off. Tanks try to control where you put your mark of chaos as much as possible, so that it's exploding in a good place and not, where people have to worry about moving immediately. It gives them a little time to watch and see. And then once you do that and the boss dies, the fight's over and you're done. That's pretty much how I suggest doing the fight, no matter what size you're into. Actually, we have found it's easier with less people than with more people killing this boss, simply because it's a control fight. It's not a straight burn DPS fight, and it's something that the more healers you have, the better it is. We've seen guilds take 25 to 30 people in there and go in with 11 healers. We've seen them go in with 11 healers, 3 tanks, and then about 10 DPS, because it's not a DPS race. The only thing that you have to worry about DPS wise is killing the ads in the intermissions down enough. If an ad is still alive at the end of an intermission, it's okay, as long as it's about to die right after. You don't necessarily have to kill it right before the intermission and have some time left over. As long as it's dying before you have to worry about destructive resonance, you're okay. That's all you have to worry about, because it's just getting through, surviving, making sure your healers have enough mana to get into it, staying out of the bad, and that's this entire fight. Before I end this video, I'm going to do one last thought on Arcane Wrath, because I went over Mark of Chaos, I went over Destructive Resonance, I went over the ads. The only other thing is Force Nova. Force Nova, as you know, is just a pain. The displacement one is really a pain, since it drags you along with it. If you have a druid, make sure that they have glyphed the Stampeding Roar and hitting Stampeding Roar to make you go through it quicker. Anything that has mass AoE movement that can give you, definitely do that, but you want to just run through it. The others you kind of want to jump over and then move back into place. So that's Force Nova. Force Nova is just really honestly a straightforward mechanic. The one thing that you kind of need to watch out for Force Nova is during the third phase, where he is throwing out the 3 AoE pulses. If the tank happens to drag the boss with him to the side accidentally, and as my phone is going off in the background, if the tank happens to drag the boss with him off to the side, which hopefully he won't this phase, hopefully you just have your mark. Well, yeah, he has to, because he has to be targeted by the boss. He drags him off a little bit. You kind of have to watch that he may come back to right here, cast a void, force pulse. Then he might move to here and cast a force pulse, which means you're dealing with a force pulse and then immediately another force pulse right after. So that's something you will have to kind of keep an eye out for, healers. But other than that, that's force pulse. Force pulse is easy, and just jump through it. Get through it as quickly as possible, whatever you have to do. I definitely recommend saving your damage reducing cooldowns for using maybe one during the destructive one during the displacement fight, where it's displacement force pulse, where he pushes you back. Maybe use one there to help your healers out, but definitely have a 3-minute cooldown, a defensive cooldown for that multiple AoE phase, because it just does a lot of damage and you can't do anything to avoid it really. So that's force pulse. The only thing I'll say about Arcane Wrath is you can do this one of 2 ways. A lot of people, what they will do is they will have a person, usually a hunter. If you have 2 hunters, it's even better. What they will do is they'll have the person, when it gets to for every phase except for the 3rd phase, because it gets much higher, what they will do is we just allow it to basically get to about 5 or 6 stacks, I believe it is. At 5 or 6 stacks, it's around 12 yards to 20 yards, and then that person GTFOs. If you GTFO and you pass it on to another person, immediately GTFO back to the group. Do not stay out in this area if you have Arcane Wrath, because if this person gets it, runs out, and you're just kind of sitting here, it's going to jump to you, and that thing does a crap ton of damage. That's the biggest thing that we probably fell on, that it's just hard to do, is Arcane Wrath. You just want to make sure that, one, if you're at 5 or 6 stacks and it's not on, say, like a hunter or somebody that has a defensive cooldown they can use that's reliable, you just want to make sure you're getting out as much as possible. But what you can do is you can say, okay, it's at 6 stacks. Me and the hunter are going to move here. I'm going to pass it to the hunter, and then the hunter is going to disengage out here away from the group so that we make sure that it's taken care of. During the third, that's pretty much the same throughout every phase except for the 4th phase and the 3rd phase. The 4th phase, you're spread out. You just want to try to stay spread out. Healers, you're going to have to watch people that have Mark, Arcane Wrath on them, because it's going to deal a crap ton of damage. It's going to eventually get to the point where it's going to hurt. You're just going to have to watch them. This is where having Disc Priest is good, because bubbles. But you just kind of want to watch them. Divine Hymn, that's the holy one. I can't believe that. Whatever, it doesn't matter at this point. But you just want to watch them when you're in phase 4, because they'll be spread out around the room. And during phase 3, it's fortified, so it lasts longer. So you have to wait until 8 stacks and when you have, and if you do this format where you have 2 people move out, you want to move out at 8 stacks. If you don't, you want to wait till 9 stacks, unless you have a movement speed ability. If you have a blink, if you have disengage, if you have displacer beast, which I definitely recommend all druids using displacer beast. If you have any ability that gets you from here to GTFO'd really quickly, you can move at 8 stacks. If you don't, do not move, in my opinion. This is kind of one of those things that's contested, but in my opinion, you don't move, because if you get to here, it's going to bounce anyway, and if you don't get your butt back to the group immediately, this person's going to get out and it's going to jump to you anyway. So if you have an ability that can get you away 27 yards really quickly, do it at 8 stacks. If not, run at 9 stacks, and the immediate it jumps on you at 9 stacks, you run. And that's honestly, that's Arcane Wrath. And that's this fight in a nutshell. It's a very long nutshell. It's a very long, drawn out, controlled nutshell. But that's this fight. It's just dealing with each of the things as they come along, and just dealing with it smartly, keeping us close together, so things like druid mushrooms can heal as much of the range as possible. I mean, you definitely, you don't want to, when you're moving around the circle, you don't want to move a whole lot. Like if you place, if you have your guys, you're starting here and you have a druid, place your mushroom right there so that you're moving into it and you can stay in it for a little while before you have to place it again. It's just thinking about things. This fight is definitely thinking about what's going to happen, not what's happening now, but what's going to happen 15 seconds from now. And if you do that, you can definitely do this fight, no problems. Even with lower DPS, you can still do this fight. And I completely believe in that. This fight is not about damage done, except trying to make sure that you don't have too much stuff up at the end of an intermission phase. It's about getting through the fights with healers being able to can you heal, and tanks not dying. That's this fight. And if you can do that, you can beat this boss. I hope this little kind of guide thing helps you out. And if it does, then awesome. If it doesn't, then let me know where you're having problems, and I will try to come up with something that helps you out. Like I said, I'm going to try this Saturday during our, which will be a heroic run this Saturday, since we swapped to Mythic before the Foundry dropout stuff. We want to, we'll be doing heroic this week. Hopefully I can get a video and then actually show you through a kill video what we do and how to deal with it. And you'll see it through my point of view, or our tank's point of view, and hopefully, actually he may be DPSing that time, he may be red, but hopefully you'll see, I'll have a video for you so you can actually see it instead of me just describing on a picture. But this should give you a general idea of a good way to do this. I may be saying redundant, you may know all of this, but I definitely wanted to help you guys out, and I hope it does. Alright guys, catch y'all later.